Today on StampTV, I'm going to show you a whimsical card project featuring a couple of the new incentive products for June. Let me show you the tools and products you're going to need to make this card project. First, you're going to need some ink, and I am going to be using the Gina K Designs Turquoise Sea ink, along with some Memento Tuxedo Black. And I'm using the Memento because a lot of you like the Memento for coloring with alcohol markers. For alcohol markers, I'm going to use the Spectrum Noir BT4 marker. Then I'm also going to use a Quickie glue pen, some scissors, and some adhesive. For cardstock, I'm using some of the Gina K Designs white layering weight cardstock, some of our black Onyx, and a little bit of our Turquoise Sea. I also have a couple of our vintage cuts. These are our fancy borders, and this is the Turquoise Sea ones. Okay, now for stamps, last month we gave this stamp set duo away free. This is the Flower Blooms stamp set duo, and I'm using both pieces, the flower and the greeting. This month we have a couple of new incentives. When you spend $25 or more, you get our new Garden Tour 6x6 pattern paper pack. When you spend $50 or more, you get our new Gina K Prismatic glitter. And the color that you get this is called Frozen. So this is the color that I'm going to use on today's card project. It's just beautiful, so shimmery. And then, if you spend $75 or more, you get this stamp set duo, and this is called the Frame and Filler. So I want to show you how this stamp set duo works. You can stamp it a couple of different ways. The first way you can stamp it is as one entire piece. You can ink it up with your favorite ink. I'm going to use some Turquoise Sea here. And then you can stamp the whole thing so that it produces both a frame and the fill inside. You can see how that looks. So that will allow you to stamp another image on top of that and have a nice frame that goes around the entire thing. Now, if you just want to use the frame, let me just clean this off with a paper towel here. If you just want to use the frame, what I recommend, because these pieces come apart, so you have the frame and you have the filler. Now, the frame is very, very flimsy, and that's good for some things, because let me show you something fun that you could do. If you wanted to, you could push in on the sides a little bit and then stick it to your acrylic block, and you can make a fancy frame that you could then cut out or fill in with some pattern paper, whatever you'd want to do, just by squeezing that together and then placing it on your acrylic block. But the problem with it being a little bit flimsy is sometimes it'll get a little misshapen when you put it on the block. And the easy way around that is to first lay down the filler, put the frame on top, and secure them together. And once it's all secured together, then you can just pick out the center stamp and the frame will be perfect. And that's the best way to do that. But for my card project today, I'm only going to use the filler. And what's neat about that is you can use the filler first and stamp one color and then go back and use the Stamp-A-Majig and do a different color with the frame on top. And if you want, you can even have them both together and use marker to ink up the inside with one color and marker to ink up the outside with another color, as long as you're using water-based markers. So let me show you this project. First, I have a piece of the Gina K Designs. This is our 80-pound or our layering weight white. And I'm going to ink up the filler stamp using some of this Turquoise Sea ink. Well, let me just get that a little smoother there. Okay. So I'm going to stamp that a little bit off, move some of this out of the way, off center, just about here. Get a nice impression there. There we go. So now we have a little, it takes the place of a layer, really, a little texture there to stamp on top of. Now my next step is to take the Hopeful Flowers and some of the Memento Tuxedo Black ink, and I'm going to ink that up using the Tuxedo Black. And if you're doing this with watercolors or water-based markers, then you can use the Gina K Designs Black Onyx. You can also use it with alcohol markers too. Some of our customers and I have great luck with our Black Onyx ink, but some of you still like the Memento a little bit better when it comes to alcohol markers, so I'm going to stick with that for our videos for a while. Okay, now I'm going to stamp this flower a little off-center, so most of it's going to be toward the filler itself, but a little bit is going to extend off. Okay, so there is the flower. Now I'm going to add the greeting off to the side here, and I wanted to make sure that I had enough room, which is why I stamped it off-center a little bit. So the greeting will actually also go over the filler, and that's kind of a neat look. And we'll stamp that right about there. Excuse my head if it got in the way. There we go. So where flowers bloom, so does hope. That's a great, encouraging card to send to someone that needs something to brighten their day a little bit. Okay, so now for my next step, I'm going to add some borders. And I want to add one at the bottom, and I want to add one at the top. And you can use any of our borders, or if you don't have any of our vintage cuts, our fancy borders, you can use dies or you can use a punch if you have a border punch. So what I'm going to do here is run a little bit of tape along the bottom, and centering this, I'm going to adhere that, stuck a little bit, to the bottom of this piece of white cardstock. So that looks pretty good. Let me move it over a little bit. It's a little easier if I pick it up and do it. Okay, so there we go. That's pretty good. Now I'm going to trim off the excess once I get both of these pieces on. So I'm going to do the same thing with the top. Just kind of center it. And lay it down. Now you know me, if it's not perfect, I gotta fix it. And this one still doesn't look centered to me, so I'm just going to fix it. Okay, so our next step is to take some scissors, and I like to do this from the back. It's a little bit easier, and just trim right along the edge of the white cardstock. Now, since that's a little bit more delicate and it's not attached at the bottom, just add a little bit of tape and just push it into place. Same with this side if that happens. If you're using this particular border, you might want to just add a little bit of dot behind it, or some glue, whatever you use. And get that to lay down there. Add a little bit there. Okay. All right. Now I'm going to do the other side, same way. Move that out of the way. There we go. And add a little bit of glue under there as well, or tape, just on that little corner. There we go. Okay, now this whole panel is going to go on top of a piece of black onyx. And I really like the black onyx frame because that really kind of plays off of the color of the flowers in the greeting. Makes the whole thing stand out. And my final step here to assembling the card is to lay that whole thing onto, got a little glue there, onto my Turquoise Sea Card Base. So that will go on next. Okay, so now it's time to jazz this up a bit. And what I'm going to do is color in the flowers using the BT4 Spectrum Noir marker. And I'm going to use the smaller end since these images are very delicate. And this color really looks nice with the turquoise sea, and it also colors nicely on top of it. It's not exactly the same color, it's a little bit darker, but I would call it the complementary color for sure. Just a couple more. It's kind of neat because we're not doing any shading on this, but we're still getting a nice smooth stroke out of the pen. So there's my finished flowers. They're all colored in that turquoise color. Now we're going to add some of the prismatic glitter to the flowers. But before we do that, I have a little scrap piece of folded cardstock here. And what I'm going to do is take my embossing magic pad and I'm going to just rub that all over the surface of this piece of cardstock, because this is where my loose glitter is going to go when I throw it onto my cardstock. All the excess is going to go on this piece right here. And by using the embossing magic, it removes some of the static, because it's an anti-static pad, and any oils or any moisture at all, dirt, anything that's on there will be gone, and you'll lose a lot less glitter that way. When you go to put it back in the jar, it won't stick to the paper as badly. Okay, so now I'm going to use the Quickie glue pen, and I'm going to color in these delicate areas of the flower. Starting with the smallest flower, I'm just going to gently color some glue. And this does come out kind of fast, so you do want to be careful not to color outside the lines. And I'm going to color this one and the big one. Now this glue does dry quickly, so you do want to work a little bit quickly, and if you don't feel like working too quickly, that's fine, just do one flower at a time. It's also nice to give it a chance to dry just a hair, because it will get a little bit more tacky and you know, a little bit less gloppy. So that's kind of a good thing when it comes to glitter. All right, so now I'm going to add the prismatic glitter on top and just pour a little bit on each of the flowers. And then get rid of the excess, tapping it. And then you can just blow away any of the excess. Once it dries, you can use a Swiffer on top, or one of those dusters, and you'll get rid of any of the excess glitter that's anywhere. But it doesn't stick too bad to everything else. You can see it's just on those flowers. Isn't that pretty? Okay, so now I'm going to put the excess into this jar, and you can see most of it came off, which is really good. You can see a little bit there at the bottom, but most of it came off, and that's because of that anti-static pad. Glitter does have a tendency to get everywhere, and if you have a Swiffer, that's a great way to clean up. Also, if you want to clean up using a piece of paper towel with some water on it, that really does help. It just grabs everything, and then you can just dry off your area. And here is my finished card project. And look at all of that shimmer and shine. Isn't that pretty? No matter what color you put under this glitter, it will give it an opalescent look and add the perfect sparkle for any paper craft project.